Okay. Let's check over here. Get that to refresh. Start TikTok live. We're live on TikTok. That's good. Fun. Give them a little bit to get in here. Let's see. I gotta get the Facebook screen chat up over here. Which we're getting viewers in here on stream, so that should mean it is. Yep, it is. Sweet. Well, how you doing tonight, Chad?
Well, it's pretty nice out. Only about 30-some degrees, so we're cleaning the shop and trying to throw away about 20 years of crap that's in the corner, so we can get started on next year. So
you're in Kansas. So what is? So is 46 high or low, or what's the weather usually like out there this time of year?
It's a little bit warm for this time of year. We're usually in the 30s to 40s in the day, and then freezing 20 to 30 at night. So.
Speaking of weather in Kansas, like this year out there at Blizzard Bash, is this like the warmest year that's ever been out there?
It's been that way. I mean, it gets a little bit cooler than it did this year sometimes, but we've had pretty nice weather there for the last 10 years.
I get you. So how many times have you ran Blizzard Bash?
I missed 1 year since it moved to Kansas. So I believe that was 2010-ish.
So did you run Blizzard Bash before it was in Kansas?
No, Chicken had ran it when Sam had it up in Nebraska for, I don't know if he was up there 2 or 3 years. And then the way I get the story, Jimmy Johnson went up there and ran. And by the time they got done talking, Sam was looking at Topeka to bring Blizzard Bash into Topeka, into the better facility, the way it's all set up.
Speaking of Chicken, how did you guys meet? Because you guys have been running that show for how many years? How did you guys meet originally?
He's a little bit younger than me. He remembers recording derbies where we were beating the hell out of his dad in the arena, and he kind of jumped ship on the hometown guys and started running with us years ago. We always didn't run together. He had to battle through me and my family multiple times and held his own, and we just kind of went from there. I think it was 2010, the first year at Blizzard. Chicken didn't run with us and I wasn't on Team Kansas then either. I had my own team, and we drew Chicken's team the first round that first year. So
how'd that go? Who won?
We got lucky enough and advanced, and they had to go through the B feature.
So you mentioned you and your family used to basically give Chicken the business back in the day. How many of you guys used to derby?
5 or 6 at a time. I mean, at once was probably going.
So what all family members was derbying with you?
Most shows, a brother and a nephew, and then local shows would be a couple brothers, and my sister Regina also drove sometimes also.
So how did you get into derbying exactly?
Because we didn't have a dirt track, and all we had was derby, so that's what we did. Abilene, Kansas derby started in 1974. This is our 50th anniversary, and we've had a member of the family running every single one of them.
So how has that show gone down in car count, or what's the car count around?
Well, we brought it back with it's actually a GSA show, which is my sister and her husband's company, and I do the teching for them at Abilene. We've brought it back. It's we've got our bone stocks in central Kansas very strong. And our limited weld is a light limited weld, and we had 14 teams of 2 last year. This year we're going to take 20 teams of 2, and it's 10,000 to win this year. So it's not big money for out in your country, but 10,000 to win shows back here in the Midwest are still good money shows.
Well, 10K to win shows, I think, are like the new 5K to win shows, you know, because they're, at least around here, that is, because they're
Yeah, you've got them all over up there.
Well, speaking of 10K, how many times have you won 10K?
Not that many, probably. A few times at Blizzard. Chicken and I split Mono, Iowa a couple times. I don't know. 10K really, up to probably 8 years ago, you had to go clear out your way to get that kind of money. So our big shows were more 5, 6, 7,000 to win.
So what is Derby like up in Kansas? Because I know yesterday I had Tyson Shelley on, and we were talking about the differences between like out west and like around here out east, and it's two different worlds. What's it like up there?
We're kind of stuck in the middle. Of course, Topeka kind of has ruined the local shows because everybody goes there and sees all the goodies and the trinkets and all the manufactured parts and want to bring them back to the county fair level. And some of that stuff really doesn't have any place at the county fair level. But it's not an overbuilt Kansas. Eastern Kansas has some very good builders and creative builders. It's kind of two different states. If you get east of Topeka and south, them guys build super hard and really good at hiding stuff. Out here, more on the up and up on the build, and so it's kind of two different worlds.
So has it always been like that, or has that just kind of started after Topeka became?
No, it's always been that way. The hometown fair boards and stuff up that way kind of let more slide, and then around here we had more of more single promoters that did multiple shows, so it kept things, the hometown stuff couldn't get in as easy.
That makes sense. So how many promoters are there around there for all your guys' fairs? Because around here, like just in Ohio, there's like 10 different promoters and there's only like 50 fairs.
Well, I mean, I don't know how many we have in the state. I know there's a main promoter in the eastern part, Pay Up Sucker, and then GSA is also in play there. And then I have, about 10 shows in central Kansas. So I would say we're probably the main one. And southern Kansas has a few guys that have multiple shows. So there's probably 4 or 5 that have multiple shows.
So compared to the east and western of Kansas, how different are the builds? Is it 2 different states or?
It's not that different. I mean, a lot of things are leaning towards what happens at Blizzard, and then I've kept my bone stock down to more of a stock build, and it's been my strongest class, and gotten new people in, and and then some of the others is more like a hobo with headers, and you can run your belt motors and stuff at the other promoters' classes.
So, in Kansas, since you got into Derby, and how much has like that area changed? Like, is it 2 completely different areas?
Yeah, we've went through the same thing everybody has. We started, with swapping body mounts and putting a decent motor in, and no braces on the rear end to full cradles and full rear ends and everything else. So we've done the full swing. We just haven't done the full swing with the plating of the frames and that kind of stuff.
What part of Ohio do you think I'm from? I run stock stuff. Okay, we're still.
Well, I'm not for sure that you're not from Pennsylvania and you identify from Ohio, because I've got a friend from Ohio that kind of tells me different things about that. So, you're kind of in that age group where you can identify what you want to be, but you're really not. So I'm not for sure where you're at.
Well, yeah, I know the friend you're talking about. Yeah, so like I went out to Kansas, and like it was really weird because everybody thought I lived in Pennsylvania, but I'm trying to explain to them, no, you guys, I'm from Ohio. I'm cool.
Well,
yeah, but nobody believed me. It was
the guy you came with that started that rumor had pretty good credentials, and I would almost trust anything he tells me.
Well, yeah, I would too. The ride down there, you wouldn't believe the amount of flack I got told for being from Pennsylvania, which honestly,
Well,
I'm starting to believe I am.
well, it didn't get any easier once you got there.
Not at all. It got a lot worse.
So, no, we was glad to. I didn't know you before then, but you kind of hung out in our pits with John, and it was good to see John come down and snoop around Blizzard Bash for some reason. I'm kind of curious about that reason, but he was kind of helping around, and if we needed something, he was there. So you got to see kind of what Blizzard Bash was. I don't know. You go to enough shows up there. How does Blizzard Bash stack up?
It kind of puts everything to shame, if I'm going to be honest with you. I thought the Bash was this huge deal, and I thought like Deadman and all these shows were these huge deals. And like, there's a few like little indoor shows around, but like nothing compares to like the atmosphere of Blizzard Bash. Like even the pits, like the stuff that goes on in the pits out there is it's not comparable to anything I've ever seen around here.
Really?
So why do you think that is? Why do you think that show out there is just 10 times better? Like it's basically looked at as like the Super Bowl of Demolition Derby.
I think first of all, you got to look at location. Centrally located, easy to draw. You draw a 6-hour circle from Topeka, and you can gather up a lot of quality cars and a lot of good drivers. And then you go that 6 to 12 hours, which is the push. To get somebody to travel over 12 hours, it really takes a special deal. So you can get them to travel that far, and they want to come run against, the best in the United States, people from Canada. I mean, I think location, the setup, now that we're into I think we're getting ready to push on to 15 years of it at Topeka. I mean, I think if we started in 10, which I think we did, this will be the 14th year coming up. So it's built its reputation. Some of the bigger shows were going downhill when Sam took on the challenge of and the risk of losing money for the first few years to get it built up till we sold the place out. And once it sold out, it just drew people in. And the podcast guys, the Chris Markort and them guys, I think really put it on the map the first few years for the nation to see that, hey, this is cool. It's indoors. These guys are driving their ass off in the heats. There's no way to politic anything out of the heats. And the best part of Blizzard Bash is the first 2 rounds. You don't have no choice who you run against. And if you lose, you lose. You shake hands and you go on. So I think that part of the atmosphere is unmatched.
I completely agree. I do think that is one of the reasons why Blizzard Bash has been so successful and will continue to be so successful, is because it's in the center of the country. Like so for us to drive out there to Blizzard Bash this year, it was about, I think it was like 10 hours exactly. For us to drive out to Gold Rush, it's like 24 hours, which is 2 completely different trips.
Yeah, that's a whole nother. I mean, you get over that 12-hour mark, it really changes things. It doubles your expenses. I mean, you're looking at $5 fuel. I mean, and another day or 2 of travel on top of being there a week. Location, I truly don't think it matters that much who's promoting it. I was there with Sam. Went through some rough times with Sam. We speak to each other. We're polite to each other. I've been there with Tim. We've had some issues and some rough times with Tim. So just different ways. So the show is bigger than any of us drivers and any promoter. It just takes somebody to organize it and keep it moving forward and keep it where it needs to go, and keep new faces coming in is the main thing. You don't want it to get stale.
I can completely agree with that. So on a level of that show, like, everybody obviously says, like, when you look at Facebook the week after, it says Blizzard Bash is dying, Blizzard Bash is going downhill. Do you think that seems to be the case, or do you think that's just people on the internet that aren't there?
Everybody's entitled to their opinion unless they're sitting in the car and having to battle the other people in the arena, and then that's when they can say it's dying or not. If they come in the arena and they want to compete, they can say it's easier, it's dying, or whatever. But until they do, there's nothing easy about Blizzard Bash. They brought in the stalker class. It filled up in, I think they opened that class late due to splitting up the national teams between Gold Rush and Blizzard. And I think it filled up in, I don't know for sure, but I know it was several hours. They had their 16 teams for the Street Stock Weld team show. And there was a waiting list. I do know that for sure. So I guess if it's dying, they had a waiting list for it. So I guess, I guess it depends on your opinion of dying.
Oh, I can completely agree. Like this past year, I was trying to get a compact team together for out there, and I had all the guys and everything lined up. Come sign up day, I clicked refresh, sold. I couldn't believe it. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, and that's the way Blizzard's been for a while. So I think the mods are starting to lessen, but that's not Blizzard Bash. That's Bash for Cash. That's Gold Rush. I mean, Sam had the same deal up there. He had to combine the qualifying and the national. I mean, there's only so many guys that are going to keep building that way, and a lot of the guys have taken a break, and they might come back. They might not. I don't know. And they've moved down to limited weld. The limited weld is basically 10 hours worth of work away from being a mod, so it's kind of a smokescreen on what's out there. That's also divided the competition level and the amount of cars in the mods.
So, like for the build level at Blizzard Bash, like was it always that super heavy, just like hard cars out there, or did it used to be like a stalker build?
Well, funny you should ask that. So the rules we started with in 10 are what the street stocks are running now. But if you compare all the rule sets in the street stock, limited, and mod, you'll find that they're almost identical with this added or this taken out. That's because we started with that set of rules, and it grew into the mods because of inspection and because of the normal of that got in 1 year, so everybody did 3 more things the next year, and then it become accepted, and then that's where we got to the mods.
So with that being said, where do you see like the build going for the national side? Do you see it like getting heavier, or do you think it'll start to get a little softer?
It really can't get any heavier. I think the rule package that they took away a few things this year. I didn't see anything wrong with what we had. I thought it put on a very good show. First of all, everybody's got to realize that at the end of the day, we're just a traveling circus and we're entertainers for the people in the stands. So the better the promoter can make the show, the more money he can pay, and the more money we can win, and the better show we can put on when cars are able to move with steering because they're not slammed to the ground and things like that. I mean, I voiced my opinion pretty well to Tim on things I don't like. He don't listen to me most of the time, but once in a while I'll get a gold nugget. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's the modern day traveling circus. I mean, it's there's no other way to look at it. And you got to put on a good show, and you've got to treat drivers right, or they'll quit coming. You'll lose your damn circus animals, and you got a bunch of old dead fish out there. You're not going to have many people in the stands watching.
I completely agree with that. Like, do you think, where do you think that show was headed if Tim never stepped in?
Oh, somebody, like I said, it wouldn't have mattered. Somebody would have taken it over. Whether Sam would have kept it for a few more years or what, somebody would have taken it over. And we probably wouldn't be too far different than what we are right now, because he didn't have competition. When Tim took that over, there was no competition, and the best thing that happened to Blizzard Bash is Gold Rush. The best thing to happen to Blizzard Bash is Gold Rush.
How do you figure that?
What makes you better?
Well, competition, obviously.
There you go. I've never seen Tim have more control of a show than he did this year.
I mean, yeah. Looking back on it, yeah, I never really thought about it like that. I guess when you think of Gold Rush and that, you only think about how it hurt the show and never how it actually helped.
It didn't hurt. It helped both of them. It's going to be, and I told everybody from the beginning, it's going to be good for the drivers for the next few years while they're battling and having their competition. We're going to get a few more things back. Tim gave all the national teams $1,000 bonus this year because of Gold Rush. He gave everybody their $1,000 entry back. So a lot of people don't know that, but he did.
So do you think that competition in between the promoters is just going to help the drivers in the next few years?
Yeah. And it's going to keep their inspection in line too, because if you don't like one place, you got an option to go now. If people feel like they're screwing up or you're not getting treated equal, there's other places to go.
Which, speaking of inspection, what are some times? Do you have any times out there you like to share, like at Blizzard Bash, when like the inspection was just like, "Are you serious? What's going on here? Why are we doing this?"
Not personally, because I don't take any of it personally, but as a local promoter, when I have a lot of my local drivers going to Blizzard because they're coming to watch, or it's 2 hours from home, some of the tidbit things that they make them change. Example, making a driver move a roof sign 3/4 of an inch because the rule states that it had to be, 2 inches from your halo bar. The roof sign's mounted in the center of the car. It's 3/4 of an inch too close. So what the driver didn't understand, that rule was put in there for a reason. Back in 2010, 2012, we were running double roof signs down pillars of square body Fords, and they were welded to the halo and bolted all the way through the pillars. That rule was put in there for a reason, but also the young guys that have teching weren't there in 2010, so they just see what's on paper, so they're trying to do what's right, but the local guy is like, that's not doing anything. Why in the hell do I have to move that? Well, just move it for us. I mean, so that's the kind of little stuff that gets spread around the pits that people that haven't been there from the beginning don't understand why they're picky on that stuff. And on the same token, the guys that are trying to enforce the rule are just doing what's on paper, which is what we all want at the end of the day. But the little bit of common sense, like, well, that, it can't do anything if it's 3/4 of an inch off, and we're talking about a roof sign on sheet metal.
Yeah.
And little shit like door laps being over, the door strap being overlapped a 1/4 inch or something. We just threw it up there and didn't cut it, and then it's got to be cut. I mean, just little things like that. The rest of it is people trying to do their job.
Since you're a driver and inspector on a high level, so do you how much of factor do you think respect goes into inspection lines that be a successful and well thought out tech line? Do you think that drivers respecting the inspectors and the inspectors respecting the drivers goes a long way?
Oh, of course it does. It's hand in hand. It's no different than drivers respecting drivers on the arena. If you're an asshole, you're going to get treated like an asshole.
So, speaking of getting driving like an asshole, what are out there in Kansas? How do they call drivers' doors? Is that like?
I have never seen them call one. I don't know how they call them.
What about? I mean, like locally in Kansas, not away from Blizzard Bash.
We call them.
Because go ahead.
It's always, if you're the aggressor and somebody's good enough to put their door in front of you, it's your responsibility to get off the throttle and try to hit the brakes. If you slide into them, you slide into them, but you need to do two things.
That makes
because,
sense.
county fair cars are not built to take the door shots that we take at Blizzard Bash.
So you've obviously taken some big door shots out there at Blizzard Bash. What's the worst one you think you've taken?
Sure, the one from last year with Booger. He definitely did not lift, and I definitely pulled the door on him, and we were both trying to do the same thing. I wasn't letting him get my wheel, and he wasn't lifting not to get my wheel. We shook hands when it was over. We had a few beers at Ottawa, Iowa about it, and then he's like, "Well, everybody thinks we're mad at each other." I'm like, "We're not mad at each other. I mean, you were doing what you had to do, and I would do the exact same thing, and I'm sure you do the same thing. But I mean, just lift a little bit for me next time, would you?"
So when you got hit in that car and you started you didn't get rolled over, you just went on two tires, correct?
Right. Yeah.
So when you got hit, I didn't really pay attention to the inside of your car. Do you run foam or anything, or did you get hit the car inside with your body at all, or what? How did that happen?
No, I don't run foam. I've got full size, full door plate inside.
So did you whack your elbow or anything like that, or were you guys all good?
No, I went to the passenger side. I hit my head off the passenger post on the other side of the car.
Wait, hold on. You hit the passenger side post?
Yeah.
You got hit on the driver's side.
Right. It's called inertia.
What?
Threw me out of the seat.
Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. I think. I don't know. Anyhow, so going to back to up there in Kansas locally. So how do the guys drive? Is it like out there in Utah when it's just like, let's just get it done right now, or is it like up here out east when it's just like, well, let's go putt around for a little bit?
I haven't been to a lot of out east shows, but it's definitely not Utah. Our heats are a good build, a street stock type build or something. Our heats are maybe 30 minutes, and our features are an hour, maybe an hour 15 with 15, 20 cars. So it's in the middle. I mean, it's not, you got to make shots to keep running. So it's not just totally go out and not hit.
So, that makes sense. So them guys don't drive like how they drive out there at Kansas when it's just crazy all night long at Blizzard Bash.
It's very comparable to the street stock and how they drove the street stock and limited weld heats. And I mean the feature.
Interesting. So speaking of Utah a little bit, I mentioned that not too long ago. Have you ever been out there to Utah to run or anything like that?
Nope. I've been to a lot of, I think 5 or 6 different states, but we never ventured up to Utah yet.
So what states have you ventured to so far?
Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Iowa, Ohio, Illinois. Where else? I don't think we've been to Colorado. That's about it for running wise. Oh, Wisconsin.
What did you run up there in Ohio?
Dent, when it went to Xenia. Oh, that was way before you probably went to the Derby with your dad and came home with your mom.
Well, I think that's before they even met. That was how long ago that was. My dad probably didn't even graduate high school when that was.
Yeah, so that would have been somewhere around 2007, somewhere in there.
It wasn't. He graduated high school. That was I would have been 1. Oh, sweet! I would have been 1.
So.
Ay. So.
Oh, I guess Indiana. We ran Dent when it was at the speed drome on asphalt several years.
So, other than Blizzard Bash, what big shows have you ran before?
Of course, Mayhem, the infamous Mayhem that I can't seem to really get that trophy, but ran that for years and years. Great show. Adel, Iowa was probably one of the best shows in the nation at one time. Ottawa, Iowa is another good show that's on a bigger level. And then the Dents, we ran Dent for several years in Indianapolis. Kentucky, I forgot we ran down to Kentucky at Bluegrass Bash, and Arkansas at the Razorback Rumble. So,
going back to Mayhem real quick, I mean this in the nicest way. What do you think is what do you think the problem is with Mayhem? Because you've been running it for for a very long time. What like do you think it's just cursed, or what do you think's going on there?
Um, you know, early Mayhem days, everybody didn't know each other, and it didn't have competition. So when Charlie Perrine started that, he was basically the big game in town, and it drew a lot of people. And he was good centrally located because we were 6 or 7 hours from there. Your Ohio guys weren't far. Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota traveled down there very well, and Iowa. It just was, far enough north that, I mean, there was years when we had, I think, up to 15 Kansas cars there. There just was not 10,000 a win was big money, and it still is. And he didn't have that much competition, and cars were cheaper. I mean, everything's changed. I mean, I don't think much is going wrong with Mayhem. I think they had it going the right direction, and hopefully it'll keep going. But everything's changed on price of everything and how you build things and buy things, and price of new tires for derby cars and everything else.
So how many years have you ran Mayhem?
I don't know. I've missed it a few, but I don't even know. I'd have to look on the wall and see what year some of the trophies are. I mean, I bet I've ran 20 Mayhems.
So, like, how close have you been to winning it, and how many times?
So there was a stretch I've had. There was 5 years that I had basically a top 3 for 5 years in a row. I've had multiple seconds, multiple thirds, multiple top 5s.
So is the show cursed, or like
for me?
Yeah, like
no. I when I tell my friends it's down to 1 and 2, it's down to 1 and 2, and I gave it away a couple times.
Well, yeah, I've been there countless times. So, is Mayhem where you met John Rutherford at?
Yep, we met in the arena.
So, what's the story behind that?
We both were doing our job, and we kind of mixed it up, and we decided that was enough of that, and we started kind of picking the rest of the field apart, and we didn't have to talk about it, didn't have to do nothing. We just had a head shake in the arena and shook hands when the heat was over and went to the feature. And I don't know if either of us won it that night, but we were both in the top 5. And then Marvin Neal was with him, and my nephew Shane, and all 4 of us were there every year, and nobody really knew we were together. So, we took care of business and didn't have to worry about what we told each other, because we knew 100% what we meant and where we stood.
So back when you guys were like running Mayhem hot and heavy, how bad were the politics out there?
It wasn't what it is today, because today the upper echelon of the derby's too small, and we didn't have that. I mean, we had good drivers coming from everywhere to compete there because nobody was dominating anything yet. I mean, our group won more than any other group when I look down through the names, I mean, of who was kind of with us, but we all had our own subgroup of no more than 4 cars. And at the end of the day, we were all there, but nobody knew we were together because we didn't pit together. We didn't talk to each other. We didn't do all that stuff they do nowadays.
So when it comes to politics, how do you think that's like affected the derby world over the years?
Very negative. It keeps the new guys out. It ruins a lot of local shows, and that's why team derbies got so popular so quick. Because, like I said, I don't give a shit if you think Blizzard Bash is politics or not. You can't politic anything in the heats, and you got to beat everybody that comes in front of you.
That makes sense. So why do you think politics have gotten so bad within the sport? Because
it's too small, and everybody has too much money in their cars, and nobody wants to lose, and nobody wants to look bad. Nobody's willing to go out and go against, say me and Pete Hansen. Say nobody's willing to say I'm going to go out there and take Pete Hansen on. I just want to, let's just have fun, and we'll shake hands and still be friends when it's over.
So, you think it's like a fear and an ego factor mainly?
No fear. I don't think it's fear. Just other than if you're scared of losing, and if you're scared of losing, you're done anyway because you're going to lose. Somebody's going to be better than you at some point, someday. I mean, and if you don't take that and run with it and make yourself better as a driver or builder, then that's your own fault.
I completely agree. So, how many times have you ran into politics when it just was not on your side?
Oh, we've been there. We've been there plenty of times. That's when it's fun. That's when it's fun.
I can completely agree with that. So when you're going up, like let's say when you're, well, I don't really know for an example. When you're going out to a show and you know you're sitting bad politically, what is your mindset going towards that? Just like, let's see what we can do, or what are you thinking?
It's when the deck stacked against you, when you step out and take the trophy, you have a hell of a lot more to be proud of than when you win a show with, 6 guys.
Which that makes sense a lot. So when it comes, which big show do you think has the worst politics?
Oh, they all have their politics.
Which, yeah, that makes sense. So let's see. Before I forget, let's read some chats real quick. When you were talking about the circus, Buddy Hess said, "Does that make him the clown?"
Yes, and he's scheduled to be riding a donkey at all CDDA shows next year. We just got to get him suited up, and we'll get him on that donkey. So you didn't know it there, Freebie, but Buddy Hess started as CDDA announcer. That's my Championship Demolition Derby Association. I brought him into Blizzard Bash because he said he wanted to get in there, and I had a good relationship with Sam. I said, hey, I got a guy that's all right. I mean, he's kind of rough around the edges. We've got to work with him a little bit. And, I said, Sam took a chance on him, and I've been polishing him ever since.
So Buddy's from Kansas, right? Which obviously.
Yeah, we don't claim him. He's more of the Missouri. He's more from an Oklahoma. He's kind of OU fan, so he's kind of borderline. But yeah, he's 45 minutes from my hometown.
So it's like me and Rutherford, basically. Like they kind of claim me, even though I'm from Pennsylvania. One of them.
We'll claim Buddy just because we don't want him to feel bad about himself. He's got pretty sensitive feelers.
So how did you meet Buddy? How did that all work out?
Actually, I was trying to drive an IMCA modified at the local racetrack, and I think he enjoyed watching me do small circles, and he was announcing there, and I said, hey, you want to announce at Derbies? Or he asked if we needed any help, and it was just from there, Buddy and I worked together for, I don't even know, 15 years at least, I think. I don't even have to hand him nothing. He just looks at me in the arena. I shake my head yes or no, or a hand signal, and he goes on and does his stuff. Or he reads me very well because most of the stuff we do on the arena is just having fun, entertaining the crowd, like we do it, like he does at Blizzard Bash. We talked multiple times that we are a traveling circus, and it's all about entertainment and getting the crowd moving and having a good time with the crowd. And Buddy does a very good job with that. And hence why he's the face of Blizzard Bash. And I think we're actually going to be selling some Buddy Hess shirts next year for Blizzard Bash.
Buddy, what are they going to say?
Well, you'll have to buy one to find out.
Well, I suppose I got to come. I guess I got to go to Kansas just to buy a Buddy Hess shirt at this point. So, who was the announcer in Kansas before he did it?
The name slip. I can see his face. Robinson. I think they had a couple different ones. But once Buddy got in there, it was kind of set.
So when I was thinking about starting to do all these podcasts and stuff like that, I actually reached out to Buddy because I wanted to get him on the show to talk about Blizzard Bash and all that.
Well, I kind of broker all of his deals. I mean, Buddy don't do anything for free, so I mean, we'll have to work on that.
What if we help cook for you guys if you ever come out towards the Ohio area?
Well, that'll probably work.
I got a friend named James. He's a good helper. He can sling some 9-wire for you.
Well, if we can do that.
So when I was talking to him about it, I asked him because I was trying to get some questions and everything wrote up. I said, "Do you remember when you first got into Blizzard Bash?" And it took him like a day to get back to me before he could remember. Because to be honest with you, I thought he did it since the beginning of it. I never knew there was somebody before him.
No, he can remember. He just has to. He's a little slow in his age, so we got to give him a break.
So he does. So does he announce all your guys' fair shows that you put on?
Yeah, he does 75% of them. Some of my fairs that are further away, the Texas and the Bowling Green, Missouri, they like using some of their own announcers and stuff. So we let them do that where they're used to their people. A lot of shows will request Buddy, and if we can get him out of town or he's not doing something with Dax sports wise or something, he usually comes along and does our announcing.
So how many shows do you promote in? I mean, states. How many states do you guys promote in?
3 right now. We do one show in Texas, one show in Missouri, actually 2 probably in Missouri, and then mainly Kansas.
So I talked to you about this before, but how do you guys deal with sandbagging?
We've got our own way. As a driver, I'll do it if you let me do it. As a promoter, if you want to do it at my shows, you're probably going to get a surprise. I mean, I guess you'll have to have your viewers tune into our first show at Lynn, Kansas on July 8th and see what it's all about. It's a very unique situation, and it gets the driver's attention in a hurry. We don't break flags. We don't take money away. We don't take the fairy dust out and spread it over the arena. We do some other things.
Well, that's one way to put it. So how many shows do you guys have this coming year?
Our schedule don't vary too much. We're from one end of the state to the other, basically towards Topeka. We're usually around 12, 14 shows.
So do you guys only really put on county fairs, or do you guys try to put on a separate event?
We have a couple separate events. We have a point series for our bone stock. It's usually a 40-car show. It's at the end of the year at a speedway, Crashtoberfest, and it's just for our bone stock cars. It's an extra bonus for 4 different regions. The regional winners win some extra money. The overall winner wins extra money and some Mad Dog stuff. So
that's kind of basically the Kansas version of the Unified Point Series that Mark Elliott puts on.
It's probably, but it's localized enough that you can only run 2 shows out of your region, so you don't have to follow everything around, and then you come to the finals, and that final show is included into your 2 regional shows for the overall winner.
So how long have you guys been running that?
I think this is in the 4th year. We picked up some great sponsors along the way to help sponsor that, and it looks like they'll be back on board this year. I mean, last year we had Foley Caterpillar always sponsoring us some equipment to move cars. Marshall Motor, Dodge, and Nissan throws in some prize money. Shane's Casing out of Russell, Kansas, threw a lot of prize money at us this year. Wholesale Batteries out of Nexa, Kansas, do a great thing. Faulkner Fab and Plaz throws in some Mad Dog trophies. Hill Job Graphics throws us some trophies and wraps for our cars and stuff. Maxima Tires threw me some tires and stuff this year and some money. So it's building up good. We had a great year promoting and we had a great year running. I mean, Chicken and I won a few shows. I went to Southern Illinois with Tom Gegg, and we were 1st and 2nd down there. So we had a lot of fun this year.
How many shows did you run personally this year?
I think 4. Mayhem, went to Mayhem. course, Blizzard, Southern Illinois show, which was very good, Ottawa, Iowa, and I guess Capital Carnage. I don't think I'm forgetting any.
So, what show do you like more, Capital City or Blizzard Bash?
Oh, I mean, Blizzard Bash is the crown jewel. It's the king right now, and we're blessed to have it close to home, and even more blessed that we've won it as many times as we've had, and pretty much if you're coming to Kansas, you're going to have to come through Team Kansas to get to the feature, and it's going to be a hell of a battle. We might not win, but you're going to know we was in that heat.
So do you think having that show in your backyard is like a huge advantage compared to everybody that comes from hours away?
It never hurts to have home field. I mean, it gives us probably a little extra help in the pits, and Leon's close enough we got a full on chef and kitchen there, and if we run into trouble, we can track down parts because we know everybody in the state. So it can't hurt anything. But does it matter on the heat level? I don't think as much. I mean, because if we were going out of town, and we'd have to plan a little better with who's coming with us and what jobs they can do in the pits and everything, but we'd still bring a very salty pit crew. I mean, I truly believe we win that show in the pits. You'll find some guys that might work as hard as we do, but our pit crew works very hard.
So, two things. What do you think brings your guys' pit together so well? And how the hell did you get a chef?
Well, chef is a loose term, but I mean, let's call him a fast food cook. I mean, he's not doing much gourmet, but if we put pressure on him, we might be able to get some gourmet stuff out of him. But it just happened. I mean, he sees what we do, and people were bringing miscellaneous foods to eat and stuff, and we'd put them on the table in crock pots, and it went from there. And Leon kind of took over and brought a grill and the griddle, and everybody still chips in and brings a little bit of this and a little bit of that and the crock pot stuff, which is great for the late nights after the derbies and stuff. But otherwise, I mean, we wouldn't hardly eat. We'd be ran down at the end of the day, and it helps. If you can't drive happy, you're not going to drive very well.
True that. So so obviously you met Chicken, but how did you guys meet Clemens? Because
well, once upon a time, Mr. Sam Williams kind of put the screws to me and Brent at the same time, the same year, and we got to be friends over that.
So what's the story behind that? What?
Well, I think that's the Markley call deal from the Capital Carnage, the 30,000 to win, and then Brent got DQ'd for a half-inch or an inch weld, and I was in fifth, moved me up to third or fourth or somewhere in there. So I bounced. I basically doubled my money for Brent getting DQ'd, and he was mad about it. I was still mad about it, and we started talking more and more. Then I wasn't coming back to run that show anymore, so we had fill-ins on Team Kansas for next year. Jimmy kept the team, and he went back, and that's the year I believe the Geg boys came in as our fill-ins, and then it was just a long story that pretty much everybody knows.
Yeah. Just how many times do you have stuff like that happen in Derby and just some terrible calls, basically?
Oh, I mean, it's all judgment call. Some people's judgment's better than others, and some people's judgment gets better with time. So hopefully those two things hold true. If you're not mad about a judgment call at some point in your career, that means you probably haven't been towards the top of winning a show.
Well, yeah. So how many years has that team ran together, you, Chicken, and the Clemens?
I think we're on our fourth or fifth year together. Before 4 years ago, we had the Geg brothers split up and the Clemens brothers split up. We had Barry with us and Tom with the Chicken and I, and Jimmy had Brent and Kurt Gegg with them, I believe. That's how that worked. And the year before that, we had both the Gegg boys. So
do you guys run it with each other out like outside of Kansas with the Clemenses? Because you guys or is that just from running out in Kansas? Because you guys drive like pretty much like the only way I can describe it is when birds fly in a flock. It's that's the only way I can describe it. Like at the end of the first heat, when you guys get done, you literally flew like a flock to the one corner, and all you were all like it was honestly amazing to watch.
Well, that was just an accident. So don't take any notes off that. We do run together. I mean, they're 12 hours from us. We went to Ottawa. Candace had Domination had Ottawa last 3 or 4 years. She had mods up there, and all 4 of us went. It was 2-man teams. Chick and I were together, and Brent and Barry was together. And then Barry's son, Crew, and Jimmy's son, Jace, ran on a team together in mods. And we ended up taking the top 2 spots, and we had a great time. I mean, and so technically we weren't together, but yeah, we probably were. And so yeah, we do if we get a chance. Chicken went up and ran the NLR show with them, I think 2 years ago, May Madness or something like that. I think they wound up in the top. I think Chicken was second or third or something, and Clemens was right there with them. They had some mechanical problems. So yeah, we'll run. I think we're planning on going a couple places this year together. So
awesome. So how did Chicken get the name Chicken?
That just might have to be a conversation that you'll have to have with him.
So, do you think we could get Chicken on the podcast? Me, you, and Chicken, maybe even the Clemens. Do you think the Clemens would do it?
Oh, I think so. They're as any Derby person, they're diehard Derbies. They've been on some stuff before, so I mean, I'm sure they will.
Awesome. So one thing I had in my notes is when it comes out there to Blizzard Bash, obviously the track is like there's nothing like it around the country. So how do you pick your tire selection when you go out to a show like that?
Nowadays it's a lot easier than it was in the beginning because and even Tim had a little bit of a battle there, but Sam took some he took some beatings over the track conditions a few times. The track wasn't right and it went to crap, and by the time Tim got it, they had a lot of the bugs worked out for the indoor show. I mean, he's had a couple situations where it was a little soft, but they're pretty anal about how hard the track is before the excavation company leaves the grounds. I mean, so it's a lot easier now. My tire selection is probably way different than everybody else's, so I just do what's right for me. A lot of people will run solids or foams or whatever. I don't like a big heavy lug tire, so that's kind of what I look for. And then I picked up, Maxima tire for the front tires. They're a great 26-inch tire, heavy wall. We tried them out this year and only lost one of them out of the 3 rounds.
Those were them monster truck tires you had on the front.
Right, yeah.
It's one of the things that like it's truly I don't know how to say it exactly, but when you look at like your front tire selection compared to like everybody else's, it's like it's completely different from everybody else. Which to be honest with you, I don't think one team has everybody sticks to one tire. I think every car out there had a different front tire on it, other than like 23s or nobody really had the same like rim combination.
Right. No, it's all what you're comfortable with, and probably more than anything, it's what you have already done because tire combinations are expensive anymore. So, I like my bigger tires for a lot of reasons. I know why the guys like their little tires, and that's just what I'm comfortable with.
So, going off of that, what's your favorite type of car to run out there, like at Kansas?
So we won in sedans. Chick and I both had Buick sedans the first two times we'd won in 15 and 17 Buick sedans. So obviously we're leaning towards the GM lines, and then I went to wagons after a few rule modifications that what I wanted to do with my wagon. So of course, everybody expects me to be in a wagon, and I'm very comfortable in one. So I would say the GM wagon.
How many GM wagons have you built?
I have no idea. I wouldn't. For years, I would drive by a sedan and wouldn't even stop on
them. Them things are just clip and frame donors, basically.
Yeah, that's what they were back then.
The only person I know that still does that is Tony Penwell. He sent me a picture the other day. He had a big stack of just old iron sedans, just sent with the caption of "Make great parts for round backs." And they were all.
Well, there you go.
So, have you ever ran a Ford, or what are your thoughts on Fords?
Oh yeah, the first 3 or 4 years at Blizzard, I ran 2 square HDs, 90s HDs, and then a 2000 HD. And we went to Fords for a while because old iron, for some reason, dried up, and now it's kind of back around here. We can find a few, or different driver cars are laying down, so they're not quality enough to put in somebody's collection. So you can still buy them, or the cars that were stashed for 10 years you couldn't get a hold of have now came available because that person quit derbying, or their son's not involved or something, so they're ready to get rid of them. So, yeah, we ran plenty of Fords.
So how bad are the prices on cars up in your area?
No, they're terrible. I would not come out this way and look for cars.
I've never really been to Kansas other than Blizzard Bash. Is it does everything rust up there due to salt and all that really bad, or?
The Fords are hit and miss. The closer to Topeka, Kansas City, the worse the cars are. The further west, the better they are. We're kind of the brake line for everywhere.
Which makes sense because around here, it's Fords are either clean. Well, everything's either clean or rotted away. Basically, there's not really an in between.
No, we've got plenty of mediocre cars, county fair type cars, but there's plenty of clean stuff out there.
You got any cool stories like when you went to go buy a car or anything like that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I've got plenty of them. I mean, getting stopped by cops, 5 blocks from a house. My nephews did because they was watching that house for 6 months because it was a drug house. I mean, 20 years ago. I mean, about getting shot, because you're coming on somebody's property. About anything. Feeling bad because you're pulling up to buy a wagon from a guy and you had the deal made on the phone and you still want to Jew him down. You get there and he's in a wheelchair and stuff, but you still want to Jew him down because that's just the nature of the game.
Hold on. Go back to the drug dealer, the drug penthouse. Go back to that one.
Well, we used to hunt cars in Wichita, which is comparable to Topeka, and good Impalas and stuff are sitting in the wrong parts of town, but it didn't bother us when we was young. And my 2 nephews were hunting cars, and they stopped, knocked on the door, and nobody answered, or this, that, and the other. When they got pulled away from there, they was about 5-6 blocks away. They got pulled over by undercover cops, telling them that, asked them what they were doing. And once they explained to them, everything was good, but they were a little concerned they was in the wrong part of town, and they probably should not be coming back in this part of town.
That's... I have a story.
This was before your time. We couldn't find cars on the internet. We had to get in our vehicle and dirt road it and go into cities and, take all weekend and come back with 2 or 3 cars.
Yeah, I can imagine that probably wouldn't be the safest. A guy bought some Cadillac parts off of me not too long ago, and I had to go take him over there. He gave me an extra $100 to deliver them, and we kind of live close to Cleveland, which Cleveland's it's hit or miss, but this was a miss, so it was kind of the bad side of town. I get over there and it's getting dark, and I got to get these parts to get home, so my mom doesn't yell at me. And every like block, every few houses, there'd be some old looking car just in the back of the house. The house looks like it's fallen down and abandoned. But yeah, I'm not going to investigate that in the dark at all. That seems like a very bad idea in that area.
Yeah. So that's what we did all winter back in the day, as they say. We would the winter would be grab 3 or 4 guys and get something that makes fuel mileage and hit the dirt roads and point one direction and wind up wherever you wind up and hit a pavement road on the way home.
So, you got any more stories like that or anything like that?
Oh, there's multiple stories dragging, before, had an 85 Chevy with the 305 in, one wagon on the trailer, and it's sleeting out, and you got one of the nephews in a car behind another wagon with a chain on it, dragging it down a country highway, and they can't see, but you just tell them, just don't hit the trailer, just hit the brakes and follow me. They weren't very happy time we got back home.
How many times have you been stopped by the cops, or like when you're out there trying to find cars like that?
That was the only time that they'd ever got stopped for something like that.
You ever think about what could have happened in a lot of them situations when you're in that area trying to find a derby car?
No, that was a nice 76 Impala. No, hell no.
Oh, hell. So looking towards next year, what are your plans for next year exactly when it comes to running wise?
We're definitely in for the King of Ohio. I think the package of the format of it is more towards like the team where you don't have no choice of who you draw or whatever heat you're in. You've got a derby. Takes the politics out of that end of it. I'm sure if we're lucky enough to make the feature, there'll be plenty of politics in the feature. But that's part of it. And we know that when we're going there. You can't win the show if you don't get to the feature. So we're going there. Going to Capitol here in a few months, kick off the year there, and probably have a few other early shows I'm going to hit, and then we'll get into the promotion side of it.
So you mentioned the King of Ohio. So what do you like the most about it? The competition aspect of it, or what's your favorite part of going to King of Ohio?
I mean, you can, and you know a lot more of the names than I do, but the list of builders and drivers out of Ohio is long and distinguished. From Ziz to Toby to Allen's to, the other groups that are up there. It's just, if you stay complacent in places you run like Blizzard, and you don't try to go new places, you might miss something that's coming up in the build or a different style of driving. And when some of them teams come to visit you on your court, you don't want to be caught off guard. So it's as much as a research and development as it is to go see where you stack up with that part of the nation. Do we plan in coming in there and thinking we're going to win the show? No, absolutely not. But at the end of the day, hopefully they know that I was there.
So, what do you think the format in Dustin Woods and King of Ohio? What do you think that'll turn into, like basically the NASCAR that he wants it to turn into, or how do you think that will hold out in the long run?
I don't think the only way it's going to take somebody that gets a big sponsor where they can pay some teams to come around and that kind of stuff. And you have 4, 5, 6 shows throughout the country that you can pay to afford to travel to and take time off work and afford the cars and the parts and everything to compete at that level. So, I mean, not saying it can't happen, but I've been around it long enough and a lot of people's tried. If you can't speed the arena up or have the back door stuff for derbies that make it totally exciting for the normal crowd on the big screen, I don't see it happening. I mean, I'm glad he's trying it. I'm glad he's got ambitions of doing it. I'm not going to tell him it's not possible, but hopefully it does. I mean, a lot of people spent a lot of their life and missed out on other parts of their life doing Demolition Derby, no different than the early NASCAR guys did. If you eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff, that's what you do. It's no different than the race car guys and the big dirt modified guys. I mean, I was reviewing the Blizzard Bash heats and stuff the other night at home, and we was getting ready to go somewhere. My wife asked me, "Do you ever give it a break?" I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "The day after Blizzard Bash, I didn't think about a derby, didn't look at derbies or nothing, but you missed that day. So I guess you have to wait till next year."
So where do you see the sport going in the next couple of years?
I see a few more bigger shows and maybe ultimately, with what Sam's got at Gold Rush and Tim and maybe with ultimately, why not say, okay, here's the winners. Let's take them all to arena, not associated with any of us, and the drivers put in several thousand, and all these promoters put in several thousand, and we'll see who's the best. We'll try to take the politics out of the feature or whatever. I mean, I think something like that could happen and grow the sport and maybe make big pay-per-view. I don't know.
So obviously one of the hot things on Facebook for the past few weeks has been like a unified, basically sanctioning body.
Yeah, good luck.
Well, what makes you say that?
Seen it too many times. There's states that can't even get it done. How the hell are you going to get it done nationally? There's too many egos. There's too many drivers' egos. I mean, yeah, it might be that guy's show, but so and so's inspecting and we don't like him, or I know what they're getting in with, so I'm going to try this, and if I don't get in, I'm going to be mad. I mean, I just seen it too many times.
So you think Derbyan's going to stay the same way it is, and it's almost going to self-harm itself because it can't grow?
Yep. It's going to take a very special individual to get it done, and it's going to take them sitting at the top, not having anything to do with the shows or the venues or anything else, and just kind of, this is our package. Here's two officials that'll help your officials, and here's $50,000 to put towards your show, and the rest is yours. I mean, it's going to take that sponsor and that sanctioning body that can pay the other guys to do it.
So I'm not sure if you watched any of the promoter interviews we did or not, but what
I thought I did, but I thought I was watching like a presidential debate.
Well, what makes you say that, Chad?
Well, I mean, did you hear anything you didn't want to hear?
Well, you make a great point. They kind of told me everything I wanted to hear, everything everybody did want to hear. I mean, I think Tim Clark was the only one that kind of set things like Trump did when he walked on the stage, just like, they're all dumb, they're all bad, we're all bad,
Well, there's only so many of us dumb derby drivers to go around right now, so they've got to try to please whoever they can. And on the same token, they're taking, at your young age, I don't know if you understand how big a risk it is to take to put on a national show. I mean, I don't feel like Sam made any money. I know for a fact he didn't make any money at the early Blizzard bashes. I will give credit where credit's due. I'm thankful that he hung in there until it got successful, that, us drivers kept supporting him and putting a better show on every year and better show every year until we all got to where it needed to be. And he's fighting the same uphill battle. I mean, and Tim, I'm sure it was down this year. It's a huge risk. I don't know if the numbers solidly, but you're talking several $100,000 up front to put on a national type show. Not everybody's willing to take those risks. If it works, the reward at the end of the day is great. But So once again, you got to keep the old animals in the circus, running in a ring and not trying to bust out of the barn at the end of the day and go somewhere else, because you need them as much as they need you. And it's hard for everybody to get on the same page sometimes.
So do you think it's even possible for everybody to get on the same page, or do you think that's just going to be a lot of wasted energy?
I'm just going to sit back and watch.
Well, yeah, I think we all are. How do you think this? That brings me to another point. So, how do you think all the social media aspect of everything has impacted derbying?
I think this conversation we're having is good. I'm giving you my honest opinion. A lot of people don't get to see that side of the derby from I guess a so-called driver, an upper driver, and even a promoter. I mean, we're doing things on the local level for my drivers to get on the same page on rules, so we don't have as many problems in the inspection line. So I think it's positive there. I think these conversations are great. I think it needs to happen if it's going to move forward. But I don't see much negative. The negative I see with the social media is the hide behind the keyboard stuff. Want to talk to stuff, but never have ran that show or don't plan on coming to that show. But you don't like the rules, but you're not coming anyway. So, but you still want to say you don't like it, but you never gave it a chance. So that kind of stuff is bad for the sport. But on the same token, as long as they're talking about you, whether they hate you or love you, they're still talking about you, and that spreads both ways.
Which you obviously run a Blizzard Bash, so do you think that out there, especially, it draws more of that like keyboard jockeys than any other show?
I don't think so. I mean, any of the keyboard jockeys. I mean, if they want to call a certain team out or something, I'm sure they can get right in line. I mean, I don't think my teammates. I think they'd all back me up if somebody on the keyboard wanted to challenge us. I think they would say, yeah, let's do it.
Which somebody asked a good question in the chat. What are your thoughts about waffles, like the basically raffles on the internet?
It's not legal because it's gambling. It's killed the car prices. It stopped it's killed it, but also it's gave people a chance to get a good car. But the problem is, once they get it, they just sell it because they're worth too much. But it's no different than going to the convenience store and buying a lottery ticket, except for you've got 1 in 100 chances to win on $100 to win a $5,000 car, or on a $10 deal to win a $500 bumper. I mean, it's just gambling. I mean, that's all it is. There's no other way to say it. The guys that are making money off of it, I mean, hats off to them. They're putting the effort out to go find the cars or parts or whatever, and they're taking the risk. So once again, there's reward with risk.
No, to be honest with you, I see it both. Like, I like waffles when I win waffles, but I've never won a waffle in my entire life. And I think that for the 5 people,
how do you know you like it then?
What?
How do you know you like it if you've never won?
Well, I mean.
Oh, you like the chance. It gives you that chance.
Yeah, like, I remember, who was that? I think it was Brendan Wiseman. He was waffling his King wagon the one year. And, I was just like, this is my chance. Like, this is it. This could set me up. Yeah, like, that felt great, But then, like, obviously that didn't win at all.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I think that was kind of a blessing in disguise, because having to go out and make every single penny to be able to afford that and not just getting lucky and spending $100, I think that was beneficial in the long run.
Right. And I mean, the other thing, it just gobbles up car supplies for everybody, because them guys are putting the effort out and going down in there and grabbing cars and making money on them. And that's been going on forever. I mean, I think probably Skinny was the first one to kind of peddle cars all across the country before waffles, and that was his living. I mean, he loved derby and he peddled cars. Well, I guess, Kelly Lampy did that for a while, but he kind of got his hand in the cookie jar.
Which, I mean, I don't know. To be honest with you, like, I think I speak for a lot of people in the derby world when like it's the price of cars is just insanity. Like I'm put this week I put floors in a Crown Vic because it was easier than going and buying $1,000 for a fresh car. Which, I mean, I never thought. I remember patching floors. I've only ran like one old iron, and I remember patching the floors and thinking to myself, in like 10 years, I'm gonna be having to do this to every Ford I come across. Well,
yes.
no, I'm already doing that, which I don't know. I can't believe how much because it literally seems like 3 years ago Crown Vics costed half.
They did, but then just like our team. I mean, Brent and Barry both built very nice Fords, and that's what they like to run because they got into them cars because they're in Wisconsin and there's no old iron up there, and they've learned and adapted to running Fords.
Which, I mean, I almost think that like it's getting to the point now for like if you were to buy a clean 9802, it's almost as much as a clean Impala.
Yeah, probably.
Which, I mean, I don't know. Unless I'm still stuck in 3 years ago, I just have a hard time justifying that. Like I'd rather do rust repair and save the extra $600.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to afford. I don't buy clean wagons just because of the price of them.
Which, I mean, even when it comes to wagons, if you can find a wagon, I mean, what do you think? Do you think Derby got rid of all those cars, or do you think it was just the amount of time that's spent? Because them cars are what, 50 years old at this point?
Oh, Derby definitely took a toll. I mean, Derby's nationwide pretty much. That's a lot of cars every year. I mean, out of each state that's gone. That there's no parts, there's no nothing. So, yeah, Derby's definitely affected those cars.
So, do you think they're still out there, or do you think?
Oh, nope, they're out there.
Which, I mean, I had Derek Creetlow on two nights ago. Well, no, that was 2 nights ago on Monday, and he was telling me a story how like 2 years ago, this guy called him, had a Buick wagon sitting in his garage, and the car he got it for like $3,000, and it was literally basically like it was in a time capsule. It had plastic on all the seats. It was set up on blocks. Which I think they're still out there, but it's just a matter of finding them.
Yeah, you're not going to find them online. I mean, you can once in a while. They're going to have to be the work to go find them, and or the lucky deals like that.
I've only had one good deal when it's come to old iron, and that was I was in English class one day and I was not paying attention. I was on my phone looking at Facebook for the first time, and I couldn't tell you how long. And there was 2 76 Cadillacs in like the straight ghetto in Cleveland, like the worst. Like it was so bad, my dad wouldn't let me go alone. He made me drag my friend. So, and it was in the heart of the ghetto, and there were these 2 76 Cadillacs that had been sitting there since at least the 80s. They were in this basement of this building, right on the corner of like a main street, and these guys didn't even speak English because like. I remember, and I figured this out before I even went because I called him while I was in school because I was like, I told Miss Todd, the teacher, I was like, hey, I got to go in the hall real quick. I'll be right back. I was like, it's an emergency. I got to call my mom. We have problems at home. So I go out there. I'm talking to this guy, and like he does not speak English. Like he's like 5 words and half, and it's the, a, and I am. So I'm like, I'll be there at 4 o'clock. I can get there at 4 o'clock. Hold him. Okay, so I get there. Since they sat in a basement since like at least 20 to 30 years, the bodies were spotless. But what had happened was, since there was so much just moisture down there, the frames kind of just got scuzzy. They weren't rotted; they were just really scuzzy. And I mean, it was an amazing deal. I think I paid like $800 for the pair, which
right.
Unheard of. I wish they weren't 76s, but I mean, hey, you got to take what you can get.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Which, so somebody said, stop junking cars that need work. That's the reason people derby cars. You don't need to run spotless cars. What are your thoughts on that?
No, you don't need a spotless car. I mean, as long as the rules allow you to repair some things, you don't need spotless cars. I'm actually kind of soft in my old age. If I find something that's super clean, I put it in the shed and then keep it as a driver.
How many like old school drivers you got?
5.
What are they?
74 Oldswagen, 74 two-door Caprice, 76 225, and a 74 Rivy. I guess I did sell one, so I sold a 74 Caprice.
So, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do for a living?
A lot of things. Officially, I'm a fiber optics splicing technician for AT&T. And we own a campground and do have a small towing company and then promote on the side.
So you're basically doing everything there is to do in Kansas.
Well, not everything, but.
So with that fiber optic stuff, where does that take you? Is it like you travel or you just?
No, it's local. I'm based out of home and I'm home every day pretty much.
Fun. So you mentioned your wife a little bit ago. What does your wife think about derbying? Is she all about it, or?
Yeah, she don't have much choice with it. It is what it is. If you think you're going to change somebody, you probably. I'm not changing her, and she's not changing me. And then it's been 22 years, and I was doing it when I met her, and that's just part of it.
So, has she ever ran before?
She ran one time. She's undefeated.
So what class did she win?
So back before 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have classes. So it was all big car, whatever the rules were. So she ran the powder puff in my car that I'd won the Derby in earlier that night.
That's she just didn't get the hook the hook didn't set basically.
Yeah, I wouldn't have as many shows as we ran back then. There's no way that she could have we could have built that many cars.
So back in that time, how many shows did you guys used to run per year?
So me and my nephew Shane went everywhere, and then other nephews went as pit crew and stuff. We would run 13 shows a year, probably go through 20 to 26 cars a year.
So what's the most amount of shows you ran in a year?
I truthfully don't know. Probably 15.
So, Serena Brent said, how did I get you to come on live tonight?
I don't know. It's just because he hung around our pits a little bit. He's a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Rutherford. And I think this stuff's good for Blizzard Bash. I think it's good for King of Ohio. Just Derby in general. I mean, I don't know if anybody gives a shit what I think or my opinion, but they're going to get it anyway.
So speaking of you and social media, like you don't have Facebook or any social medias for that matter.
No, I've been advised not to get it. It'll just make me mad.
Well, yeah, that is very true. You know, that's the one thing that I hate about the Derby world is anybody can hop on Facebook, running one and pallet back in the 80s, and everybody's a genius these days.
Yeah.
Which
there's plenty of veteran drivers out there that, I mean, the guy you need to worry about is the guy you don't know who his name is. It pulls up in a single car, 1-ton trailer with a handful of tools in the bed. That's the guy you probably need to worry about.
Well, pretty much. Which I don't know. I think the only thing that I don't like about doing all the social media stuff is because, like, for some reason on social media, everybody's an expert. You know, like no matter what you do, because a lot of guys basically really became popular in the past 2 years, is everybody started making all these like building content on like TikTok and all that stuff. And like the amount of just hate that goes through that it's why at that point, you know, like go ahead.
There's that old song about if you're going to be stupid, you better be tough. So if you're going to get stupid on the internet, you better be tough skinned.
Which I don't know. So when well, I can't even ask you this question because you don't even have social media. But the question was going to be: so if you ever experience hate or stuff like that, how do you deal with it?
Oh hell, it doesn't bother.
Just kind of you do you, basically.
Meet them with kindness. If they're booing you out of the arena, that means, if half of them are cheering for you and half of them are booing, that means you're on top.
No, 100%. So, obviously you're going to King of Ohio next year. What are you looking forward to with the format, or what are your thoughts on the format exactly?
I like the heat format. I mean, I think it's a challenge. I think it's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be a very challenging heat, and they all will be very challenging. But I think Dustin's got something up his sleeve that he's probably going to start letting out sooner than later. That's nothing's going to be easy about. It's going to be quite the deal. Hope it's just half the expectation that it is. But I think Dustin will release more as we go on in time, with some effects that's going to happen during some of these heats that he's told me about.
We can only hope, because I know what you're talking about, and it's starting to get me a little antsy. I want to see how he's going to do all this stuff. See the big stage.
Well, we'll just have to set the stage up and let people wonder.
Well, so have you ever watched King of Ohio or anything like that before?
I might have.
You might have, just like you gave it a glance.
I might have, yeah.
So, since you've derbied basically pretty opposite sides of the country, how different was it when you guys derbied out in Ohio back in the day compared to like out west?
It was, back then the event shows were, everything wasn't slowed down. Nowhere. It was all go out and derby because everybody didn't know everybody that was out in the arena. So when you had a shot, you took it. And that's what made a lot of us veteran drivers more track awareness than some of the guys that don't run a bunch or didn't run a bunch of big shows. That's the only difference with some of the guys like Bobby and Santel and John. And there's hundreds of drivers in that category, and the Clemenses. We've all been willing to go places knowing that it's not cherry picking and it's not hometown stuff. That more than likely we're not coming home with a paycheck or a trophy. But by God, we're going to find out what the rest of the country's done, or they're going to know we was there, and we'll figure it out the next time we come back. The challenges of it was what drew us to them shows, and that doesn't happen anymore.
So, out of all the hard battles you've went through throughout the years, which does any of them stand out to be like, when you think of that, like the hard battles, it's like, wow, that was one of them nights?
There's multiple of them, but the recent ones are when we get a super hard heat at Blizzard, when we would get IFD or ski or one of them, and if we would win that heat, that's just that's all you care about at that point in time. When you beat the best that are supposed to be out there and you come out on top, nothing else even matches that. There were some great battles, when we went to Iowa and we win that show, and the battle down in Southern Illinois, the Bill Miller show, which is a great show. Try to go support that. The rules are softer rules when it come down to me and Tom Gegg, and Tom ended up winning and I get second, but we had a battle through the rest of the field, and I wasn't happy with second, but I was happy with second. And Tom and I battled forever against each other, so nothing got laid down. Nobody got a freebie.
So I noticed the O'Reilly's banner in the background. Are you sponsored by O'Reilly's, or what's the story behind that?
No, I think that came from the old ex-DDL Derby League when we won that championship in Kansas City.
What's the what?
That's way before your time. It was a guy was trying to put together a sanctioning body and do a traveling series, and and one of the stops was at Kansas City, and we went up there and ran that.
So why didn't that catch on all them years ago?
I think his sponsorship fell apart, and just multiple things.
I get that. Well, so do you think derbying will turn into anything, or is it just going to stay the same way it's been for all these years?
Like I said, it's going to take a sponsor to make it happen, to go the next level, and to be some sort of little point series on the national side, and it's going to take everybody wanting to go out and drive hard and do it. I mean, I was impressed with the way that Wheelman deal went. I didn't know. I thought maybe it would be a little slow paced and everything. I knew 90% of the people in there, but it actually was. It was entertaining, and it was a good show.
So if you got if you qualified for out there at the Wheelman Awards, would you go to something like that?
Depends on the time of year. I will not give up Blizzard Bash to go to the Wheelman. So no, if it's within a month or two of Blizzard, then no. Just because difference between traveling 12 hours and traveling an hour and a half, and having friends and family right there to watch, and a team like we have, you can't say no to Blizzard Bash. On the same token, the Wheelman deal is a great deal, and all the promoters in it are doing a good job. But it needs to travel around. It can't stay up at Gold Rush. If it's a true everybody's equal deal, it needs to come to, if Tim was in it, I don't think he is, it would need to come to Topeka one year, or it needs to go to Mayhem one year. It can't stay up there and get stale like the big shows do so often that aren't team shows. I would say that's the problem with Mayhem. It's stayed up in that area too long, and it's stale. The same top 10 drivers, because we all respect each other up there. We're not better than the guys we're beating. It's just you can't get in the group because we've been there for 20 years, and we're fairly tough to beat. It's stagnant, and that's the problem with it.
So do you think the key to keeping a big show going for so long is then you have to move it every few so years?
I think if it's not a team show, I think team shows take care of themselves, because if I draw Chicken's team or Jimmy's team or Whitaker's team, we have to go at it until somebody wins. When you get to the feature, that's different game. That's derby game there. But the heats, that's the best and the worst part of those team shows. It don't matter who you get. You have to go out and win.
So I never really heard anybody say that. Whatever did actually happen to Mayhem? Why did Tori end up selling? I don't really know any of that.
I know Tori. Of course, we ran with them for years. Tori did he kind of was in the social media stuff, but it wasn't as bad as it was now, and he didn't have near the competition. He just ran its course, and Tori was he'd done what he could do with it, and I think he just wanted to break. When you promote that many years at that level, and he had 3 or 4 Razorback and Mayhem and Spring X, and I think he did a couple local shows on top of that. Well, that's a lot of time. You don't have time to do much else. So I think he was just ready to enjoy life. But I hear he's kind of piddling around up there at the King of Ohio, maybe trying to promote a class or get a class back going. So always enjoyed being around him as much as we ran with him. We always had mutual respect for each other, I guess I should say.
Do you think that class he's putting on with Dustin over there at the King, do you think that's going to take off?
I think location is the key, and I think it can take off, but I think the King could be better if it was more centrally located too.
So do you think if the King was farther out west, where do you think it would have to be the most successful at, like Illinois or Kansas or?
I don't know where, but I just think it needs to. You need a 6-hour circle of very good derby states to make the show really grow.
So, Chad Friend mentioned a great point. It basically talked about youth classes. What is the youth classes like out there in Kansas, or do you guys not have those?
We don't have those because our insurance told us there's no way that's our insurance won't allow us to do them.
I wonder what makes it so different out in Kansas than like pretty much every other place.
I don't know. I don't know what they have for insurance or how that works, or if they think the waiver's good enough. But I know our insurance company, we pay a lot of money in premium every year, and they told us that the driver absolutely has got to have, at the very minimum, a learner's permit, if not a driver's license.
Because are you aware of that the youth like nationals that
Yeah.
Frankie Guy
Yeah.
and Casey and all them are putting on?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think if you got to have another person in the car, it gets very dangerous. We had a bad fire at a show this year. If we had had two people in that car, somebody would have been seriously burnt because we couldn't have got both of them out of there. I don't know. I mean, I think I can see why they want it and why they're doing it, and nothing against that side of it. But I think it's a dangerous deal with those young people in them cars. They're making sports people set out all the time for concussions, and Demolition Derby don't. And you're getting rattled around, especially in the compact, smaller cars. You take a beating in them cars. They don't know how to judge how fast they're going, how they're hitting. I guess I'll be honest. I think it's a horrible deal. I don't think young kids need to be in derby cars.
Huh. Well, how old were you when you ran your first derby?
16. And I would have ran when I was 8 if they would let me.
Well, Tim let me run when I was 10 at the Bash, which, looking back on it, that's probably why I am.
See what it's done for you.
Yeah,
you're not quite right.
Well, yeah, but I think that's because I'm from Pennsylvania, though. I don't know if that has any direct.
Well, I wasn't going to go there.
Well, I mean, if the shoe fits for like some things, you got to wear it. You know what I mean? Yeah, like I agree with that. You shouldn't be able to let them run when they're that young, because like around here, they kind of, for like locally at least, they kind of, for the youth class, they basically took it all the way back down to a stock build and kind of cut it off for, I think it's like 10 to maybe 14.
Yeah, no, I agree. If it's going to happen, it's got to be damn near 100% stock with safety components.
Like, so for the expo, the Smith Metalworks Expo this year, they added a youth compact class instead of their van class for the promoters. And I actually helped design the rules, and it was I made the rules in a way where it's built for safety. Like, I took all the things I know about youth class and everything I've seen. Like, one thing I've seen that I couldn't believe is, so everybody wants to mount their battery in the driver's side front floorboard, no, the passenger side front floorboard, because that's just how you do it in the regular classes.
Right.
But then, I don't know if you saw Mark Klein's leg this year after, I think that was Whiskey City, when he got hit in the passenger side door, and it basically shattered his ankle when he got hit.
That's a prime example. I mean,
which I basically made the rules. Some people were saying it was too heavy around, because I allowed full door plates, inner door plates, big door bars.
That's nothing but safety.
That's what I said, but for some reason they're just lazy and they don't really want to like spend that much time on a car. But I've been in both situations. Like I to be honest with you, I never really started running door plates until like a year ago, because, well, let me take that back. It was like 2 years ago, because I was running this one youth class with this old pre-ran car, and the door was all smashed up, and basically somebody caught the door right, and the bumper sat right next to my leg. Luckily I didn't get hurt, but like after that happened, I was like, you know what, boys, we're hanging it up. No, thank you. We're going to put as much as we can in there, because I love derbying, but I'm not willing to get hurt to win $500. No, thank you.
Right. And that's the problem. I mean, at county fair levels, you've got all levels of safety and promoting it. You know, we don't x-ray welds. We don't x-ray thickness of the tubing and pipe. I mean, you know, it's just, you got to be able to have enough sense that you can make those decisions on your own. I mean, yeah, hell, we're letting 10-year-olds say that they're girls and they're not boys. Is that right? Hell no, it ain't right. You know, they can't go gamble or they can't buy alcohol until they're 21. So you tell me what's right and wrong.
I completely agree. Which I do often wonder, like, so back in the day when everybody started derbing, everybody talks about how it was just stock. I wonder when that kind of changed, that it wasn't really the norm and everybody started concerning safety so much. You know, like door plates, were they a thing back when you guys were running back in the day?
No, you've never seen a car around here with an outside door plate, and you never, you know, they had simple 4x4 cages in them, and maybe a grater blade on the outside or a piece of 6x6 channel. You know, it became a thing when the rules started allowing the cars to get harder, because when the car's bent and the tracks were muddy, and you didn't have 600, 800 horse on the track, you didn't have to have the safety because you weren't going across the track at Mach Jesus, and you didn't need it because your car was reared, you're dragging. There was no gas tank protectors keeping it from rearing when it got bent, so everything played into that. And the harder the car got, the more safety you needed. So it all went hand in hand.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Buddy Hess asks, what do you identify as?
Not an announcer.
Have you ever announced or done anything like that before?
Unfortunately, yes. At some of our shows, you've got to do everything. I usually have somebody like Dr. Scott Lucas with us, and he's kind of the Swiss Army of our promotion crew. We can throw him up the announcer at the table, even put him on the mound if we need him. I'm not the best at announcing, so once in a while I will have to get up there. I'm more just like to be out there and be able to heckle Buddy when we have cordless mics available and run stuff through him to say so that it's politically correct.
I get you. So somebody asked in the chat, what do you run for a drive line?
The Driveline Pacific, there's nobody that builds a drive shaft better than Brian Merritt. Been running his for 20, 30 years. Still have some of the original ones. There's other good ones out there, but nothing else will come in this shop. But other than that, everything else is built in-house between me and Faulkner Fab. We do our own 14 bolts, own tranny braces. I build the internal of the trannies. I build my own motors with the help of Advanced Engines out of Salina, Kansas. Nothing goes on my car that I didn't physically do something, install, put together, those things.
So, what was I going to ask? Completely forgot. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. So, are you more of a high horsepower type of guy, or like do you just need something that isn't going to stop?
You've got to have a little more horsepower than you used to. So, I got to have what I need. That's all I need. I mean, I can only get so much power to the track. So we're running on dirt and mud is my theory. So that's what I put together.
Makes sense. So I'm kind of all out of questions. Let's see if we got any questions here. Tony Burkhart asked, why don't you allow mods at CDDA?
We do. We've allowed mods for years. It just died out because everybody that was in the mods, the top 5% of them, kind of dominated the show, and nobody picked up their build, so it died out. It's still out west, Harrington, Texas. We have mods. Oakley, Goodland, Colby are all mod shows. and they're just once in a while we'll have a special, Blizzard Bash type mods because CDDA is a lighter, almost limited weld type mod.
So one of the questions I saw a little bit ago is, do you prefer the heavier builds or like the lighter builds?
Wherever the competition is going to be, I like the competition level. I mean, Mayhem's about as light as it gets. I go there. It's a lot of fun. The Southern Illinois show, Miller's, was kind of in the middle. It was a great time. And of course, Blizzard Bash, I mean, we were forced into them builds, but we've learned to adapt and overcome some of the build struggles. So we feel comfortable in that type of build as well. I just want to drive. I don't care if it's what the rules are, if everybody's halfway on the same page.
So what's have you ever ran any classes other than like regular full size?
When things were kind of getting slow around here, Chicken and I ran some minivans to try to get the class going around here, and we hit back to back. We turned around and shook our heads with each other. One time was in a minivan is the hardest back end I've ever drove.
So wait, you and Chicken were driving minivans around Kansas?
Yep.
What kind of minivans were you guys running?
He had an Astra and I had a Dodge, a 92 or 3 Dodge, whatever the hell they were. Town and Country.
How many times did you guys run the minivans?
2 or 3, just at little local exhibition deals.
So, did you like it, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it was a derby, so it was fun. I mean, but yeah, you got to be. I mean, us derby guys, there's something wrong with us, but if you truly like minivans and run them, you got to be a rodeo cowboy because you're getting bounced all over that sucker.
To say the least. Like, I wonder why the vans hit harder than everything else does.
They were designed to haul people. You had to keep 10 people safe in the back of them.
True. Well, like, the van guys are like the truck guys around here. They just go out there.
Yeah.
Which are
I like watching them.
How big are trucks up in your area?
We have no trucks in our area. Our trucks are still decent and they're usable. They're not, we've got some junkers around, but for the most part, our trucks are still on the farms or somebody's trashed vehicle or something like that.
So that class hasn't really ever caught on.
It never took off, and I don't think it ever will. I've had them a couple different times at a few shows, and we'd get 5 or 6 trucks.
What about compacts up there? What's the compacts like?
Compacts were big. They went heavy for a while into the mod limited weld. It kind of died out, and now we're back to basically a gut and go stock type compact, and it's coming back around.
So you think so? When you say mod, like limited weld, is that like full cradle and stuff?
We didn't let them get quite the full cradle. There's a few exceptions to that, but they got plating and some stuff and bumpers and cages and stuff. So
what put on a better show out there, the heavier compacts or the lighter compacts?
Honestly, the limited weld type compacts put on one hell of a show. But when you get into the bone stock, people like seeing the back wheels off the ground dragging around. I mean, there's no class. Every derby's different on what put on the show that night at our shows. I'm not going to tell you the mods are better, the limiteds, the bone stocks. I mean, it depends on the night.
So have you ever ran a compact or anything like that?
Yeah, not in a full-on derby, but yeah, I'll be going to a derby New Year's in Wisconsin, and more than likely I'll probably be in a compact.
What kind of compact are you going to run?
Whatever I draw out of the hat for a key.
So, what year did you start derbying in?
Probably 1990.
How many shows did you run your first year?
3.
What was your so if you ran 3? What was your first car? What was your first ever Derby car?
First 3 cars were Chryslers. 75 New Yorker, a 76 Fury 3, and a 70 Plymouth, the big body Plymouth.
Is that just because like what you found, or did you like
the Chryslers were the car to have back then? The Chevys really hadn't come on out here strong.
What change? What do you think changed that caused like Chryslers to basically become non-existent nowadays?
The rules. I think you see the stalker stuff coming back. It's a good Chrysler builder could really do some damage out there with a few plates on their car in a super stock type class.
So, what is one thing that I want to touch on real quick is so you're limited weld out there. What are the rules exactly like that compared?
They're more comparable to the street stock at Blizzard Bash.
So is that the class with the full cradle? No, that's
the half cradle. So they get a full cradle with no DP, no tranny brace, any rear end, with stock or lightly reinforced trailing arms and a gas tank protector, and no homemade pointy bumpers. They have to meet a 10-inch point rule.
So no frame plates, no hump plates, no anything.
Oh yeah, no hump plates. You get without the rules. I've been reading those King rules and another show rules. I think we're at a 12-inch and up to 8 plates, 4x6s with an inch gap.
So are you up there in Kansas? Are your guys' fix-a-plates rules? What is it? 6x6 by 1/8 inch?
We're 6x4 by 8.
Well, why is that?
It's just what we started with. I don't know. I mean, I don't really have an answer. It's just kind of what happened.
Like last night, me and Tyson Shelley were talking about because like out there, everything seems to be like 6 by whatever. They're out there. It's either 6x6 up in Utah or like 6x4 up in you guys by 1/8 inch. But around here, it's 4x4 by 1/4 inch. I was trying to figure out.
I would rather have the bigger plate, thinner, to work with it better on the things we do anymore, the things we've learned over the years. I like the thinner plate. I'm actually going to bump my rule to 1/4 because, I may weld it and do things or mold it or fold it and stuff. It doesn't much matter. So
that makes sense.
And it'll keep me from having to drill them or argue about 1/8 or 1/4.
Why do you think that the rules are so much completely different out there? Because even the fix-a-plate rules are completely different. Why do you think that is? Like the different areas of the country that you go to.
That's just what everybody got used to. I mean, it's just whatever the promoter wrote down and got it started. Back 15 years ago, weren't even the fix-a-plate wasn't even a thing. You didn't get them. You just threw the car away and got another car.
What? So when did that change? Do you think? Like.
I don't probably 10 right in that same area. I mean, some of the bigger shows because stuff was getting so tore up, and they finally started saying you could have 2 plates or 4 plates, and it just kind of carried over. I mean, Mayhem, I don't believe we was allowed any plates for the first few years out there, but things were, we got 9-wire and things, but things were getting so tore up that they finally, they had to give in the plates to make the quality of the show better, and it just trickled down.
Do you think when they started adding fix-a-plates, everything kind of just went downhill?
No, if it was truly just fix-a-plates, it was fine. It made the show better.
So what else did they give you that like kind of put the show downhill a little bit?
I think all the protectors started ruining things, especially when only a few had them at first, and then everybody caught up with it.
So was Mayhem's always been like a super stock build, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So do you think that's part of like why Mayhem has always gotten the big car counts?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, because anybody can feel like they can throw that car together in a week or two, not a Blizzard Bash or a King where you're going to be 3 months on the build.
Do you think the reason like those stock classes, that's why all those stock classes take off, because guys just don't really want to spend that much time anymore?
Money and time. It's affordable because you don't get all the trinkets. You don't have to go buy all the stuff because 90% of the people that can build it don't have the time to build it, and then the other percent of the people can't afford it. So you just eliminated a big percentage of drivers because they're not going to go out there if they can't have everything that everybody has.
So where do you see them heavier builds going in the future? Do you think they're going to continue to be around, or do you think they're going to slowly die off?
They'll have to lighten up, and then it'll come back around. It just depends on the money level and what the promoters want to do. If they want to keep pushing it, or if they want to drop the money down into the street stock or into the limited weld. I guess it boils down to us drivers. If we want to go out there and keep putting the hammer down and putting a hell of a show on for people, then the promoter's probably going to be happy and say, okay, let's keep this up because you guys put a show on. And I can't tell you that any of the shows were better than one another at Blizzard, because I think that show everybody picked up the pace. I think Tim tried to set the tone with what he did early on, and I think it helped the pace of the show.
So this year compared to the other years of Blizzard Bash, do you think it was? How would you rate this year at Blizzard Bash? Like, besides you guys winning compared to the other years?
It's just I don't think, I think it was a top 3 Blizzard Bash as far as action on the arena.
I can do that. Like, one thing I noticed this year is like it didn't seem like this, like the same, like, obviously since Gold Rush kind of took all of the high, like basically beautiful looking cars away, it kind of allowed a bunch of new faces to get in there. Do you think that's going to help Blizzard Bash in the long run, or do you think it's going to hurt them?
I think it helped it tremendously because you had new faces out there in the heats, so there was a lot of unknowns if that team could compete, if they was going to beat the veteran teams. I think that was the best thing to happen to Blizzard Bash, was to get new faces in there, and I think it opened some doors up for some teams that didn't want to try to go through the qualifying and win that show, which was very tough to win. It was just as tough to win as the national per se, because you still had to win a derby, and there's no such thing as an easy derby. So I think that helps. Somebody might want to travel 12 hours away. If they can slide right into the national side, I think it's going to be a game changer.
Did the national side fill this year after they
combined? Well, technically, they added extra teams because they didn't have enough for the qualifying. Neither Gold Rush or Blizzard filled both of their brackets up, so they combined both brackets, and that's how they both got to the 16 teams they had.
Do you think they're going to continue to, do you think either Sam or Tim is going to move that show, or do you think they're going to continue to battle that date out?
Tim is not going to move that show. It's kind of locked in with the event center at that time, so I think he's locked into it, and why would you move it if it's been working for 15 years? Sam, I think, I've had conversations with him, and I think he'll move the date. I don't know if it's moving location or anything, but I think he'll play around with that a little bit.
So, in the next, in 3 years, where do you see the classes at Blizzard Bash? Do you think the heavier builds are going to get lightened up? Do you think there's going to be a lot more faces there?
I think it'll be right where it's at, because I think there's going to be, if the money keeps going up and the quality of the show on the heavier builds, I think there's going to be some teams that want to come in and knock the other teams off or see where they stack up.
So everybody that runs a Blizzard Bash, do you think in your eyes that everybody is there to see how they truly stack up against the best of the best, since that is the biggest platform in Demolition Derby?
I don't think anybody's coming there thinking they don't have a chance to win.
I can completely agree. Do you think a lot of people go out there just for the experience, or do you think they go out there to see how they could stack up?
I don't know. I mean, I think it is one of them destination derbies that, whether what class you come in or you come watch it and you're coming anyway, you're probably saying, I want to take a car. I want to run something. I want to drive through that tunnel. I want to, I want my name up on the billboard. I want this or that. Or that was cool. I want, my friends and family can watch it from home from 12 hours away. The TV deal's more realistic now than it's ever been. So all them pieces of the puzzle and the atmosphere in the pits. I mean, I don't think you'll find any real team will tell you to get the hell away from them if you come by and ask questions, or no matter who you are, if you're just kind of looking and admiring stuff and not over trying to be underneath the car and stuff like that. I think most of the teams will stop and talk to the spectators and the fans, because at the end of the day, without the fans, we're not going to have a show. So I think you'll get more of that probably at Blizzard than you do some of the other big shows, the way the pits is laid out and out in the open parking lots and everything like that. I think that's a great atmosphere for the fans.
I can agree. I can 100% agree with that just from walking around there this past year. So you've pulled onto a lot of tracks in your day. Where does pulling through the tunnel rank on that basically hierarchy?
That's kind of an unfair question for me to answer, because I mean, we ran everywhere, and our hometown show is the stadium, and it's full from one side to the other. So it's no different if it's a hometown fair show and the crowd's full, or Blizzard Bash with the crowd full. Just a full crowd. If you've never got to run in front of a full audience like that you can hear over your car booing or cheering, that's what really sets it apart.
Awesome. Well, there, Chad, we just hit the 2-hour mark. I think it's about time to end this thing, because I got to get to the gym in the morning. So,
you got to get where?
I got to go to the gym in the morning.
The gym?
Yeah. You see,
are you trying to get beefed up for the king?
Wait, say that again?
Are you trying to get beefed up for the king so you can take a better whooping, or what?
Wait, hold on. I figure, I tend to go to a lot of county fairs and people get a little angry, So, if you weigh 110 pounds, it's a little you can't really say anything. You kind of just got to start running,
You need to find some bigger friends.
Well, the problem is I kind of travel alone. It's me and my mom and my dad. And, mom's a Christian lady that doesn't hit a fly with a fly swatter.
Well, I'm pretty sure if somebody put a finger on their pretty little baby boy that she might be a grizzly bear. So I don't think they want to tackle that.
Yeah, that is true. My mom's a very Christian woman until it comes to me, running out on the Derby. She was telling me, she she flicked somebody off at the Derby. I said, Mom, what would Jesus think? She says, I couldn't believe I did it. I don't know what got over me. She was ready to cry over it. And I was just like, I don't know what to say. I feel bad, but at the same time, though, I was derbying when that happened. So right. I don't know. So,
gotcha. Well, it's good to get to know you. Keep up the good work. I think these little things like this might be entertaining for people. They might learn some things. I don't know. Just keep in mind when you're derbying and promoting, and build safely and respect your other driver, and then you couldn't have no trouble. I mean, just because you win shouldn't make you the bad guy.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on, Chad. You want to plug your guys' promotion? You got any news with that coming up?
Oh yeah, we've got some huge shows coming up. CDDA Derby.com, Bowling Green, Missouri has announced we're going to a 2-man hobo team show. $25,000 in prize money at Bowling Green, Missouri this year. It'll be limited on entries. We've got the great Limited Wealth Team Show in Abilene, Kansas, my hometown, is coming up. That's a GSA show. And then our King of the Ring, which is 30 teams at once at Lynn, Kansas, in our bone stock. Those are our 3 kind of crown jewels besides our Crash-Tober that are coming up. So jump on CDDA Midwest Championship. Join us there for some of our Facebooks, lives and stuff about rules and about past shows. As always, thank our sponsors, Marshall Motors, Holy Cat, Wholesale Batteries, James Casings, Faulkner Fab, and Hill Job Graphics.
Is there a website or a Facebook page they can find you guys at? I can try to plug that in the description of it.
Championship Demolition Derby, CDDA, Midwest Championships, where we're at on Facebook.
Let me write that down.
Follow us and like us. I've got a little bet with a fellow competitor and promoter, Hollywood Motorsports out of Wisconsin, that we can have more people than he does. And got another friend up there, Nick Newman, that promotes. So we kind of have a challenge. Once again, that competitive thing that I talked about is good for your derby. So
awesome.
I don't like to lose, so I don't want to lose to either one of them two guys.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you guys all for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Chad, for coming on. Tomorrow is the last day of the week for me, because I've been going hunting on Friday. Tomorrow we're having Gumby on. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Should be an interesting one. Thank you guys all for watching. We shall see you guys later.